Hey guys, Logan here with FreeWire. It's been a week since the US bombed Iran's underground nuclear sites with bunker buster bombs, the biggest strike in years. Here's everything you need to know 1 week into this crisis. On June 21st, the US launched Operation Midnight Hammer, its most ambitious airstrike against Iran's nuclear program to date. B-2 stealth bombers flew a nearly 40-hour round trip, dropping 14 GBU-57 bunker buster bombs on Iran's heavily fortified Fordow enrichment site, buried under 300 feet of rock. At the same time, U.S. submarines launched roughly 30 Tomahawk cruise missiles at two other key sites, Natanz and Isfahan, both critical parts of Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Let's talk about what made this strike possible, the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator. The GBU-57 weighs 30,000 pounds, 10 times heavier than a standard bomb. It's over 20 feet long, designed to be dropped from a high altitude to gain incredible momentum before impact. The warhead contains more than 5,300 pounds of high explosives, but its real power comes from its ability to penetrate up to 200 feet of hardened rock or reinforced concrete before detonating. It's so massive, only the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber can carry it. This is not a precision strike like you'd see against a car or a building. It's designed to penetrate underground bunkers and hardened facilities, bases like Fordow, the kind of sites built to withstand conventional airstrikes. So now the question is, why now? For years, Israel and Iran have fought a shadow war across the region. Cyber attacks like the famous Stuxnet virus that disabled Iranian centrifuges, Israeli strikes in Syria targeting Iranian weapons transfers, Mossad operations sabotaging Iranian nuclear facilities, assassinations of Iranian nuclear scientists. That being said, in recent months, things escalated sharply. Iranian proxies in Syria, Iraq, and Yemen increased attacks on Israeli and US assets. Iranian drone operations in the Gulf intensified. U.S. intelligence reported that Fordow resumed enrichment levels close to weapons-grade uranium. This operation was a massive signal to both Tehran and arguably Jerusalem that the U.S. can still take the gloves off. President Trump called it, quote, spectacular. Defense Secretary Hegseth called it, quote, bold and brilliant. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu called it, quote, historic and necessary. Meanwhile, the UN, Russia, China, and most European allies condemned the strike as a dangerous escalation. Iran claims its nuclear materials were moved safely before the strikes, and its foreign minister warned of everlasting consequences. Their military has signaled possible retaliation, including missile strikes, naval harassment, and cyber operations. Since then, Iran's launched a symbolic attack on our base in Qatar. Tensions with Israel have escalated, and everyone's trying to figure out what happens next. 2 days after the US strike, Iran launched a barrage of missiles at the Al Udeid air base in Qatar, home to thousands of US personnel. But here's the twist. All the missiles were intercepted, no one was hurt, and officials say Iran gave a heads up behind closed doors. Symbolic, yes. Escalation, not really. This was a message, not a war cry. Trump even thanked Iran afterwards for the heads up. After that, things cooled, at least for a little bit. US and Iran both signaled they didn't want a full-scale war. European leaders stepped in, quiet talks were floated, even Israel dialed it back for a few days. This led to a temporary ceasefire, brokered through Qatar and Oman, the usual back channels. But it didn't last. On June 25th, Israeli jets hit suspected Iranian missile depots near Isfahan. Iran then responded with drones and rocket fire towards the Golan Heights. Iran blamed Israel, Israel blamed Iran, the US called it deeply unhelpful, and just like that, the ceasefire was toast. And then came this.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
That is the President of the United States, 1 week into a volatile standoff, dropping F-bombs on national TV. So where does this leave us? Iran showed that it can strike without escalation, while also showing that they won't hesitate to fire back if provoked. The US looks caught between deterrence and de-escalation, with Trump veering between "we handled it" and "they're all idiots." So after bunker busters, missile strikes, a 2-day ceasefire, and a president who's visibly fed up, where do we go from here? Iran's nuclear program took a hit, but it's not gone. They're rebuilding. Israel shows no signs of backing down. The US is still waiting for diplomacy to work, or for one more provocation to push this past the point of no return. And regular people in Iran, Israel, Gaza, and every US base in the region are stuck holding their breath, wondering who's going to blink next. There's no satisfying end to the story, because it's still being written. But if we've learned anything this week, it's that restraint is fragile, the truth is contested, and the margin for error is razor thin. We'll keep following it, we'll keep calling it like we see it, and if things shift, you'll hear it here first. If you found this breakdown helpful, please share it. Subscribe for more updates. And as always, your voice matters.